Now we talk about the limit to foreign currency possession in Sri Lanka. During this critical period, apart from measures taken by authorities to restore normalcy and procure dollars needed to buy essentials such as fuel, medicine and food, two export sectors, the Joint Apparel Association Forum and the Sri Lanka Association of Manufacturers and Exporters of Rubber Products, these two associations that brings in over $6.5 billion annually through the two industries have taken steps to provide the government with the much needed foreign currency, US dollars, by cashing in the export proceeds ahead of the legal requirement of 1 month and 7 days and before the needs of the companies itself. Now, to discuss this and the future exports of the export sector during this crisis and the measures taken by leading firms, we've invited to our studios the Director General of the Sri Lanka Association of Manufacturers and Exporters of Rubber Products, Mr. Rohan Masakorala, who's joining us virtually now. Thank you very much for your time here, joining us virtually. What do you think of this measure, Mr. Masakorala? Can you explain to us the benefits of this measure briefly?
Thank you very much, Indeewari, for inviting me. As you know, the country is facing a serious, very serious foreign exchange crisis, and we need about between $500 to $650 million, according to central bank, monthly, the essentials that you mentioned. So in the legal terms, there is a way of surrendering export bills monthly because exporters also need some of their key dollars to bring in raw material, pay freight and pay dollar loans back into the system. So they need to keep a percentage of their export proceeds within themselves and then release the balance to the commercial banking system on the 7th day of the next month. So this is the current gazette governing the conversions of exports. But these months we have seen the government is getting into very tight corner in terms of releasing ships that have arrived in the country because they don't have adequate currency in the central bank or the banking system to release these ships. So at this point, specifically, we, the apparel sector, along with the rubber sector, which I represent, have been contacted by government to instantaneously request big export companies to release their dollar holdings to facilitate this.
How many companies, Mr. Masakorala, have come on board with this measure?
Well, if you look at the Joint Apparel Association Forum, there are 25 to 30 very big companies. In the rubber sector, there are about 5 to 6 very big companies. So in these companies who have been coming forward through the request of the government to release their dollars into either to the central bank or either to Petrogas or either to CPC directly on the requirement and the guidance given by the finance ministry, these dollar bills or monies they have been having in their accounts are given to government to release this cargo. Otherwise, you know, demurrage and other resource dropping and the normal life of the public gets severely affected. So we are doing our best while we are processing our export orders and we need dollars to import raw materials, etc. as well. So whatever we can at a given time, our members have been coming forward actually for the last 2 to 2.5 months or more, surrendering bills. So actually we were happy that the government had recognized this two sectors.
Has there been any success so far seen as a result? Have you seen any success after this initiative was launched?
Yeah, very many ships. Probably nobody knows in public or even in media. It was never made a big show, but companies have been giving that money, 10, 15, $20 million at a time. Sometimes for gas, it's 3 to 5, $10 million to release shipments. If we did not give this money, government would have been in trouble and the supply chain would have got further delayed, and even the fuel levels we have today would have probably got further delayed. So yes.
And very quickly, what are the primary concerns that the export sector is faced with at this time, and how is the export sector, the organizations in the export industry, export business, handling the challenges of the crisis?
Yeah, it is in fact extremely challenging because energy and power is like lifeline of the country as well as the export industry. So it is important for us to have these two elements to make sure that our export orders are processed. Because in our case, rubber industry, we have had continuous orders coming in, and there has been no problem in terms of having orders. But in fact, we can get more orders, but which we are not taking right now because of the country situation. I understand certain industries like apparel, there is a drop in orders due to country risk being assessed by the buyers. So the next months, the order books are slightly lower than what was expected to be. But overall, still the export industry is hanging in there, and we probably will reach the targets we had last year of $12.5 billion. If the energy and the power situation and the political stability continues and without work stoppage, I'm sure we can maintain those levels, and our dollars definitely come through the banking system. Whereas we do know that there is a problem in when we worker remittances goes 50% out of the banking system, which really doesn't help at this time.
Before we let you go, I'd like to also touch on the maritime and shipping industry. We are talking about a dearth in foreign exchange as we try to finance our essentials for the country, but can't the industry, the maritime and shipping industry, play a bigger role to support the foreign currency situation in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, so this is one of the areas that comes under what it calls services exports. Now, what I'm talking about is merchandise exports, which is accountable and traceable. But unfortunately, I realized that the services exports doesn't have a formal mechanism of tracing and tracking payments, commissions received, etc. So we've had a discussion with central bank to see and talk to these organizations, including the ports, terminals, shipping agents, IT sector, various other sectors who are considered non-merchandise but services sector needs to be tracked, and if they also can help the country at this moment by instantly supporting the immediate requirements, that would help the poorest of the poor of this country. That is how we look at from our industries together, that we have to come together, and we are in constant dialogue with the finance ministry and the central bank, trying to support them and also discourage illegal methods of doing business, which is really harming this country. And it will take a longer time for us to get out of this mess if we don't have formal mechanisms adapted, whether we like it or not. Criticism is easy at this moment, but I think criticism is not going to solve problems. We have to engage the existing policy framework and policy authorities to try and help this country out of this mess. Otherwise, we are all going to be in trouble. That is what we see.
On that note, what immediate steps would you like the government to take at this juncture, maybe going forward, to fix what you see as challenges for the export industry to go out there and bring us more dollars?
Yeah, so the first thing I think we must understand, we are working with the international community, and we need the support of the international community, the confidence of our buyers of the country. So for that, we need a couple of things. If that is that we need definitely have political stability. In April, we had a press conference from all the export sectors and told all the political parties and authorities that number one is we need to have a national strategy and a national plan with consensus with all political parties to drive forward. Otherwise, without political stability, nobody is going to give their dollars, other countries, taxpayers' money to another country who cannot account for them or come up with how we are going to get out of this current situation. So that stability, direction and plan is needed very fast for us, even to get the IMF support and the bridging finance. Everybody is looking at what we are doing and whether we are stable. So these are important criteria for every one of us as citizens as well as industrialists to move forward and get out of this problem at this moment. So we call upon government and all the heads of the political parties and of course the president to be rational and practical and come up with a mechanism of absolute political stability within a very short period.